Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tales, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag too late. Now, let's get into today's tale. I thought my husband's family invited me to a beach reunion. Instead, they took my phone and keys, then sailed out to sea without me. "You'll learn to be grateful once you're humbled," his mother said as she pushed me off the dock. My husband laughed. "Let's see how long she floats." I clung to a buoy and screamed, "I know what you did with the money." Suddenly, the boat turned back toward me. But it wasn't them anymore. And we'd been married 5 years. And I always knew Greg's family thought I wasn't one of them. I came from a small town outside Charlotte, worked hard to put myself through nursing school. And when I met Greg, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. He came from money, old Southern money, and his family carried themselves like they were better than everyone. They were the kind who'd smile to your face and then talk about you the second you turned around. But I never thought they'd do something like this. It started that morning. Patricia, Greg's mother, sent me a text that just said, "Meet us at the dock at noon. Wear something light." I thought it was odd she didn't include more details, but I was trying to fit in, so I didn't question it. I showed up wearing a sundress and sandals, no phone, no wallet. Patricia smiled. This tight, thin-lipped smile, like she was doing me a favor. She told me I could leave my phone in the car, said I wouldn't need it. Same with my keys. "Greg will drive you back," she said. I followed them down the dock, past the nice boats with fancy names painted on the sides, feeling nervous but trying to hide it. Greg was already on board, standing there with a drink in hand, laughing with his cousin Travis. His mom gestured for me to step onto the boat, but when I reached for the railing, she grabbed my arm. Her nails dug in deep. I froze. "You'll learn to be grateful once you're humbled," she said, her voice low. "Just for me." And then she shoved me hard. The world tilted. The water rushed up fast. I smacked into it with a loud, ugly splash. The shock of it, the salt burning my eyes, the panic as I struggled to breathe. None of it felt real. I heard Greg's voice above me, loud and careless. "Let's see how long she floats." The boat's engine roared, and they started pulling away, leaving me thrashing in the water, gasping for air. I screamed after them, "Greg, please, what the hell are you doing?" They didn't turn around. I flailed, trying to swim back to the dock, but the current was stronger than I thought. My heart was hammering, my arms already sore, my dress weighing me down. Panic clawed up my throat. I wasn't a strong swimmer, and I knew it. That's when I saw the buoy, maybe 50 feet away. It was small and faded, bobbing in the water. I had no choice. I forced myself to swim, legs kicking, arms pulling, gulping air between desperate gasps. My muscles burned, my dress tangled around my legs. I thought I was going to sink, but I clung to that buoy, chest heaving, salt water dripping from my hair, and I started screaming, "I know what you did with the money." It wasn't just desperation. I really did know. Greg and Patricia thought they were so clever, but they weren't. I'd seen the emails, the bank transfers from his father's estate into shell accounts. I had screenshots, documents, everything saved, in a folder on my laptop labeled House Projects. They thought I was stupid, just a nurse who didn't understand numbers. I kept screaming it over and over, voice raw and shaking, hoping maybe someone on shore could hear me. And that's when the boat turned. But it wasn't them anymore. A different boat, smaller, with a white hull and a blue stripe, was heading toward me. There were 3 people on it, a man at the wheel, another man standing by the bow, and a woman in a windbreaker holding a pair of binoculars. When they got close enough, the woman shouted, "Ma'am, are you all right?" I couldn't even speak. I just sobbed, clutching the buoy like it was the only thing keeping me alive. They helped me onto their boat, wrapped me in a towel. The woman, Lisa, asked, "Do you know who did this?" I nodded, shivering so hard my teeth rattled. "My husband, his family. They left me here," they said. "They said I needed to be humbled." Lisa's face changed. She looked angry. She handed me a water bottle and said, they'd already called the Coast Guard when they saw me from a distance. I sat there, dripping wet, heart pounding, staring out at the water. I wasn't done. Greg and Patricia thought they could humiliate me, abandon me, take the money and live like nothing happened. They had no idea who they were dealing with. I sat on that boat, shivering under the thin towel, salt drying on my skin, my fingers shaking as I held the water bottle Lisa handed me. I kept staring at the horizon, half expecting to see Greg's boat come back. But it never did. Lisa crouched in front of me. "Listen, you need to get checked out. We can take you back to the marina or straight to the Coast Guard station." I shook my head, wiped my face with a towel. "I need to get my stuff, my phone, my laptop, everything." They left it at the beach house. Lisa hesitated, exchanging a look with the other two. The man at the wheel, Frank, spoke up. "We can drop you off near the rental houses. You sure you don't want to go to the hospital?" "No," I said, my voice rough. "I'm fine. I just need to get back. Please." They agreed. And about 40 minutes later, they pulled up to a small dock, a few streets away from the beach house we were renting for the so-called family reunion. I thanked them, climbed off, and walked barefoot down the road. My feet slapped against the hot pavement. Every step hurt. But I didn't stop. When I got to the house, the driveway was empty. They were still out there, probably sipping wine, laughing, planning the next game. I let myself in. Thankfully, they'd left the side door unlocked. I went straight to the guest room, grabbed my laptop from my suitcase, and flipped it open. The folder labeled House Projects was still there. Inside were the files, emails, PDFs, wire transfers, screenshots of Greg's hidden accounts. My heart pounded as I scrolled through them. Everything I had on them, right in front of me. But then I froze. The folder was missing 3 files. I clicked around, checking the recycle bin, my downloads. Nothing. The files were gone. My hands started to shake again. I knew I hadn't deleted them. That's when I heard the sound of the front door. Footsteps. I snapped the laptop shut and shoved it back into my bag. But it was too late. Patricia was standing there in the doorway, wearing a white sundress and sunglasses pushed up onto her head, like some damn queen. She smiled, tight, controlled, like a snake about to strike. She said, stepping into the room. "I wondered how long it would take you to crawl back." I stood up slowly, gripping the handle of my bag so hard my knuckles turned white. "Where's Greg?" I asked, my voice low. "Out," she said. "He's having a little cooling off time. He was very upset, you know. You embarrassed him today, made a scene." I felt my stomach churn, but I didn't show it. "You deleted them," I said. "The files." Her smile didn't waver. "Of course I did. You really think you can outsmart me, dear? I've been managing this family's business for 30 years. You're just temporary." That word, temporary, hit like a punch in the gut. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. "Where's Greg's offshore account?" I asked her. Her eyes narrowed, and for the first time, I saw it. A flicker of doubt, of fear. "I know about the shell company," I said. "I know about the funds from his father's estate, and I'm not going away quietly." Patricia's voice dropped to a whisper. "You'll ruin everything. Think about that before you make another foolish move." I stared her down. "I'm thinking about it." Before she could respond, the front door opened again. Greg walked in, sunglasses on, beer in hand, acting like nothing had happened. He froze when he saw me. His smile faded. "You're supposed to be gone," he said, voice flat. "Yeah," I said, stepping forward. Funny how plans change. Greg's eyes darted to Patricia, then to me. His face twisted into that smug look I knew too well. But there was something else there now. Fear. Uncertainty. I wasn't playing the role they expected anymore. I was going to take everything from them. But first, I needed to survive whatever they threw at me next, and I could feel it coming. Greg set his beer down on the counter with a loud clink, like he wanted to remind me who owned the place. He crossed his arms and leaned back against the fridge, watching me like a predator waiting for a signal to pounce. "Let me guess," he said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "You came back for your little files, your evidence? That's cute." Patricia stood next to him, arms crossed, lips pursed like she'd swallowed something sour. I stood my ground, bag clutched tight in my hand. My legs were shaking, but I forced them to stay still. "You think you can just erase what you did?" I said, my voice low but steady. "You think deleting files changes the truth?" Greg laughed, but it sounded forced. "What are you going to do, huh? Call the cops? Go ahead. Tell them your crazy little story about accounts and offshore money. They won't believe you." Patricia chimed in, her voice sharp as a knife. "They'll see a bitter wife who got left behind. You'll embarrass yourself." I took a deep breath, steadying my hands. "You're underestimating me." Greg smirked, took a swig of his beer. "You're overestimating yourself." And then he lunged. He moved faster than I thought possible, grabbed my bag, yanked it out of my hand, the laptop inside thudding against the floor. "No!" I screamed, diving after it. But Patricia stepped in my way, blocking me. Greg unzipped the bag, pulled out the laptop, and smashed it onto the hardwood. The sound was sickening. Plastic cracking, screen shattering. I screamed again, pushing past Patricia, but Greg shoved me back hard, sending me sprawling onto the floor. My elbow hit the corner of a table. Pain shot up my arm. Greg stood over me, breathing hard, staring down like he'd won. "That's what happens when you stick your nose where it doesn't belong," he said, voice cold. Tears filled my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not yet. Not in front of him. "You can't stop the truth," I whispered. Greg's jaw tightened, but before he could say anything, there was a knock at the door. 3 hard, fast knocks. Greg froze. Patricia's eyes went wide. Greg glanced at her, then back at the door. "Stay quiet," he hissed, moving toward the window to peek out. I used the moment, scrambling to my feet, clutching my throbbing elbow, breathing fast. Greg cursed under his breath. "It's the Coast Guard," he muttered. I almost smiled, but I swallowed. "It down." Greg looked back at me, his face pale. "You called them?" "I didn't have to," I said. "They saw me in the water. They're looking for you." Greg's face twisted, his whole act of control slipping. He opened the door a crack, trying to act casual. "Afternoon, officers," he said. "Boy, smooth as butter. Can I help you?" One of the Coast Guard officers, a tall, broad-shouldered guy with a serious face, looked past him and spotted me standing there, my hair dripping, my dress torn at the hem. "Ma'am, are you all right?" he called out. Greg's body tensed. I stepped forward. "No," I said loudly, my voice clear and sharp. "I'm not." Greg tried to block me, but I pushed past him, standing barefoot on the porch, my heart racing. Patricia hissed, from behind me, "You're making a mistake." But I didn't care. I looked the officer in the eye. "They left me in the water," I said, my voice shaking but loud enough for the whole street to hear. "They took my phone, my keys, and sailed off laughing. They left me to drown." The officer's face hardened. He radioed something in, and within minutes, a second vehicle pulled up. This time 2 sheriff's deputies in their uniforms, looking serious. Patricia's face was pale now, her mouth tight. Greg's hands were clenched into fists at his sides. I stared at them both, not blinking. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. And they knew it. Greg's jaw clenched so tight I thought he might snap a tooth. Patricia had that snake smile wiped clean off her face, her hands wringing the hem of her perfect white dress like a nervous schoolgirl. The Coast Guard officer radioed in backup, and 2 sheriff's deputies stepped onto the porch. The taller one, Deputy Marston, asked me straight, "Ma'am, you said they left you in the water. Did they physically push you in?" I nodded, locking eyes with Patricia. She did. She shoved me off the dock. My husband was there. He laughed. "They left me to drown." Greg scoffed, stepping forward. "She's unstable. You don't know the whole story." But I cut him off, my voice hard. "Ask them about the money. The offshore accounts." That froze him in his tracks. Deputy Marston narrowed his eyes. "What money?" I pulled the crumpled flash drive from my bag. I'd stashed it there, hidden in a side pocket, just in case. Because I knew. Greg, I knew Patricia. The laptop files might have been destroyed, but I wasn't stupid enough to rely on just one copy. "I have evidence," I said, holding it up. My voice was shaking, but I made sure they heard every word. Transfers, shell companies. They've been funneling money from Greg's father's estate for years. Have bank records, emails, everything. The air went dead still. Patricia's face drained of color. Greg's eyes went wide, and for a split second I saw the real him. Not the charming guy who fooled me for 5 years, but the small, greedy man who thought he could get away with everything. The deputies looked at each other. "Let's take this inside," Marston said. The next few hours were a blur. They separated us. Greg in one room, Patricia in another, me in the kitchen with Lisa from the survey boat, sitting next to me, her hand steady on my shoulder like an anchor. The deputies asked question after question. I told them everything. How Greg's father had passed, how the money had started disappearing, how I discovered the files by accident. When I showed them the flash drive, Marston's eyebrows shot up. He handed it to the Coast Guard officer, who plugged it into his laptop. There it was. All the transfers, the dates, the fake company names, Patricia's emails, cold and calculated, talking about hiding excess funds and protecting family assets. Greg's name on wire authorizations. Patricia tried to play it off like it was family business. Greg tried to say I was overreacting, but the evidence spoke louder than either of them. They arrested Patricia first. Fraud, conspiracy, elder financial abuse. When they cuffed her, she spat at me. Actually spat. "You ruined this family," she hissed, eyes wild. Greg snapped when he saw her go down. He lunged at me, screaming, You ruined everything." The deputies tackled him to the floor, cuffed him, read him his rights, while he shouted that I was a liar, a gold digger, that he'd make me pay. But nobody was listening to Greg anymore. It didn't end there. The news spread fast. Local family. Accused of $1 million fraud scheme. I watched it all unfold on TV, sitting in a rented room at a motel down the road. Turns out, Greg's dad had set up a trust that was supposed to go to all the siblings, not just Greg and Patricia, his brothers and sisters, who always seemed a little too quiet around Patricia. Suddenly had a lot to say once the charges hit. They sued. The FBI got involved. Greg and Patricia lost everything. Their accounts were frozen. The beach house was seized. Greg's car was gone. Patricia's precious jewelry auctioned off to pay back what they stole. The family turned on them fast. Greg's own sister, Denise, came to see me, sat in front of me with tears in her eyes, saying, "I'm so sorry. We didn't know. We were scared of him." I told her the truth. I was scared too, but not anymore. As for me, I pressed charges: assault, reckless endangerment. I testified in court, calmly telling the jury how they left me in the water to drown. The pictures of my bruises helped. So did Lisa's testimony and the Coast Guard report. Greg got sentenced to 5 years. Patricia got 7. But it didn't stop there. Greg's lawyer tried to cut a deal, but they couldn't make the charges go away. His reputation was trashed. Nobody wanted to be associated with the guy who tried to drown his wife. Their friends dropped them. The country club membership gone. I watched it all happen from my new apartment. Small, but mine. I got a settlement from the trust lawsuit. Not a huge amount, but enough to start over. I didn't want their dirty money. I just wanted them to know they couldn't destroy me. I kept my job, worked extra shifts, saved up. It took a while, but I built a new life. A better life. One where I didn't have to look over my shoulder or pretend to smile when Patricia sneered at me across the dinner table. They tried to drown me. Instead, I watched them sink. 6 months after the trial, I got a letter, no return address, just a single piece of paper inside, typed in all caps. "We're not done." I froze. My hands shook as I read it over and over. No signature. No clue who sent it. Greg, Patricia, one of their friends? I didn't know. But I wasn't scared anymore. I kept that letter locked in a drawer and started documenting everything. Every strange call. Every odd car parked outside. Every whisper of something that didn't feel right. Because they underestimated me. Once.